Okay, so what is the A, H, and K value? What's A? 2. And what is that going to make the graph do? If you don't know, you can look at the yellow sheet if you don't know by heart. But it's either stretch or compress or shrink. They say shrink, but I say compress. So this is going to stretch because A is bigger than 1. Anytime A is bigger than 1, it makes it stretch. Or you can say it gets narrow. All right, what about H? H is always inside or under the radical. -2 or +2? Yes, H is the one you flip. So because it's negative, what does H make the graph do? So is it going to go down or is it going to go left? I heard both. Left 2. K is 1, and what's that going to make the graph do? Up 1. All right, so we got our transformations. Let's go ahead and do our table. So I'm going to put the parent table off to the side. You can make 2 T-charts. You can do whichever way you want to do it. Doesn't matter. So I'm going to take my H value, which is -2. And I'm going to add it. I want you to add it all the way down. Add -2 to all 5 of those values. And then your Y value, you're going to multiply by A, which is 2, and add 1 all the way down. So it's always H plus X, Y times A plus K. So I'll take a minute. So that would be -4, -3, -2, -1, 0. And then 4 times 2 plus 1 is 9. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. And then you should have 1 in the middle. Okay, so this is my table. This is my chart. Make sure that's right because it's early and I'm doing mental math. But is that your graph? Is that the table you got? All right, so let's go ahead and graph it. So -4 up 9, 1, 2, 3, 4. -3 up 3. -2 up 1. And then the y-intercept is at 9. So this graph, this does not have any x-intercepts. So it has no x-intercepts, but it has a y-intercept at +9. Last thing is to state the domain and range. What would your domain be? Yep, your domain never changes for a square, for a quadratic or parabola. So this is all real numbers. But your range, what's your lowest y value? How low does this y value go? +1, right? Yep. And it's K is going to control your range. So if A is positive, it's going to be K to infinity. But if A is negative, it's -infinity to K. So for this one, it would be 1 to infinity. Bracket on the 1. How do you guys feel so far about graphing? This is the last thing that we're covering before the test. Pretty easy. All right, let's do a couple more and then we'll end. I'll pass out, so we're really just practicing. We might do a little skills check on Monday. I want to show you your quiz at the end of class. You can make an appointment. You have 2 weeks to retake that quiz. And then your test is a week from today. The quiz was out of 50 points. The test will be out of 100. So, all right. Any questions about this one before we move on to number 6? Okay. So for number 6, we have a cube root of this time. That's a cube root. So you have to, again, identify, find your parent table. Identify AH and K. A is always in front of the radical or in front of the parentheses. H is always under the radical. So notice that the only thing under the radical is X, so that means your H value is 0. K is -3. So I'll give you a moment to identify this parent table and graph it. And you could just say stretch. You don't have to say vertically. I'm not that picky. There is something called a horizontal stretch, but again, that's the B transformation, and we're not covering that. So I know if you say stretch, that it's a vertical stretch. It does not go left or right, so we don't have any transformations from H. And because K is -3, it's going to shift down 3. So a cube root using these 5 numbers, it's just the easiest to use because the next cube root would be 27, and that's kind of big. So we're not making any changes to X. The only thing you're doing is multiplying your Y value by A and adding K, which means you're multiplying your Y values by 2 and adding a -3. Go ahead and do that.
So even though it says X will be 1, you just change H?
No, there is no H. If H was 1, then there would be a +1 or a -1 underneath the radical. So H can be 0, K can be 0. Now A can only be, the lowest it can go is 1. So H, there is no change to your domain. Okay, so we got -4 minus 3. Who got -7 for the first one? Okay, good. And then we have -2 minus 3, so that would be -5, and this one should be -3. We don't have any repeats for this one, so 2 minus 3 would be -1. And 4 minus 3 is +1. Okay, so it should look something like this. Who had a graph that looks similar to that? All right. Now, this is an odd degree, so your domain and range for a cube root, your domain and range, they're both going to be all real numbers. Because this graph is going left to right, and it's also going down and up. So your domain and range is all real numbers. Okay, we'll end with 2 linear. And then when I call your name, you can come see your quiz. So today is the 9th, right? Okay, I'll tell you the deadline to take it. It's going to be not next week on Wednesday, but the Wednesday after that. Okay, last 2. And then you can use this time to work on your homework or do corrections. So f of x equals 4. Now, you don't need to do a parent table transformation for these 2. Go ahead and graph both of those and state the domain and range. And you do not need to tell me the transformations. So all I need you to do is graph it and state domain and range. Because you will have graphs on, so the next test is every single thing that was on that quiz. You're going to see it again, plus adding graphing. Okay? So the test is a chance for you. If you don't like what you did on the quiz, then do better on the test, because the test is out of 100. So that's what you put your energy on. Okay? That's what we're going to do. All right, so for your first one, that's just a horizontal line. So the horizontal line is at y equals 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is what that graph would look like. So your domain, this graph extends left and right. So your domain is all real numbers. But your range, what is your range going to be? Yep, but it's going to have that special bracket, because that's the only y value. The only y value we have is 4. And for your last one, I'm going to graph that one in blue. So you have a y-intercept at 2. And you want to go down 1 to the right 3, down 1 to the right 3. And that's going to look like this. I just graphed it on the same graph. You didn't have to do that, though. Now for this one, your domain and range, all linear functions, not all linear functions, linear functions that don't have a slope of 0, that aren't horizontal lines, okay? They have a domain of all real numbers, and they have a range of all real numbers. Okay, so go ahead. I do have a book if you need to take pictures of the questions. Use this time to work on your homework. And we will do a skills check on Monday. And I'll pass out the study guide on Monday. We would move the test to Thursday, but Thursday is career speaker day and classes are shorter. So that's why we just moved it to Friday. So